I don't know what it means. I do know from parenting to being parented, mostly culture in a house or in a business starts with accountability. Don't be a victim. Head down. It's not perfect. You got to be accountable. And so Ben Johnson said this yesterday or the day before, and he's not wrong very much, but he was being too humble. He talked about, the stepping stone of having a great year. Here's Ben Johnson. What Ben Johnson came out to say is we're starting from ground zero. That nothing matters that we did last year. It's ground zero. None of it matters. And that's where he's wrong, because what's already been established is accountability. And so, there was a moment, he disputes whether he yanked him off the field, but there were a couple of moments during day one of training camp. He did tell the number one offense, get off the field. We're not, you got to get the pre-snap, post-snap stuff. This can't be this difficult. And that's accountability. Ben Johnson's mantra has always been good, better, best. And he just sets high standards. To me, culture starts with accountability and standards. Mike Vrabel in New England apparently walked in, and like the locker room, there were like towels everywhere, towels in the shower. And he's like, wring them out, don't wash them, make the players, put them in the right spot. Just accountability. And I remember during the year, there was a moment where it was late in the year and the Bears were 9-3 in December. And at the podium, Ben Johnson said, we're winning in spite of our offense. 9-3. And throughout my course of being in Chicago here for 7-8 months, I will get people that will come up to me during the season. Why are you so hard on the Bears? And I'm like, have you heard the coach? The coach is hard on the Bears. And that's what I really appreciate. He's not pandering. I've said the NBA is all about taking care of the star. They get offended by tweets. Like the NFL is like, it's a grown-up league. Like, handle the criticism. You're on a winning streak. So what? The Bears had won 9 of 10, 5 straight. They're 9-3 in December. And Ben Johnson's like, we're winning in spite of our offense. And that was always Belichick. It's like, we don't hand out bouquets and flowers. It's not a world of rainbows. Like, we're not, and I will say this, Greg Cosell talked about this earlier, is that he's still, the mechanics, his footwork aren't great. And a lot of it's because he's so gifted, waist up. He's got such a strong arm. That was always a Cam thing. Cam's mechanics, Stafford, when he was in Detroit, I always thought had hit and miss mechanics. Now in LA, his mechanics are great because McVay demands that. Cam Newton's McVay was so strong, Big Ben had a little bit of this. You know what I mean? Like when you have that home run jet fuel V8 arm, your mechanics can get sloppy because you can get away with so much stuff. And that's one of the things that Ben Johnson corrected and will work on. It's one of the things Greg Cosell talked about. His mechanics are okay. That's why he's completing 40 or 54%, 58% and not 62%.
Yes, I am thoroughly enamored with this perspective. I absolutely adore this viewpoint, likely because he has now uttered the term accountability approximately 100 times. This is a concept I discuss literally incessantly. I even felt compelled to produce an entire video focused on coaching and accountability because, specifically, supporters of Lamar Jackson became somewhat agitated regarding the use of that very word. When fans approach Colin inquiring, "Why are you so critical of the Bears?" he responds, "Well, because the head coach is." And that is precisely what I consistently articulate. That is perpetually my focus. Many of my analytical viewpoints are actually examined through the lens of a coach. They are considered from that perspective when I remark, for instance, Caleb could have thrown an interception on that play. He was fortunate he did not. That is an element they must address, perhaps against the Commanders or another opponent. Some individuals will object and assert, "We secured the victory. Cease discussing that." And it's like, I assure you, Ben Johnson is currently engaged in a conversation with Caleb Williams in a film room at this very moment, reviewing footage and stating, "This cannot occur again. This is accountability." It is something I observe among supporters of all teams. This is not exclusive to Chicago. But they frequently resist conversations centered on accountability. If they win, they simply desire to celebrate the victory and believe that is all that is significant. And it's like, That is not all that is significant. That is not how this operates. That is not how coaching functions. That is not what is demanded of you when you are a player. I have news for you. When you are a player, and since so many fans prefer to view situations solely through a player's perspective, players are acutely aware when they win, yet were fortunate to do so, or when the outcome could easily have swung the opposite direction. They are cognizant of that. They comprehend it. They sense it. They know it. And that is what is so exceptional about a head coach and a franchise that demands that level of accountability. It will be the precise element that enhances the probability that you genuinely construct something extraordinary. Because when you have a franchise, and this is what I previously discussed concerning the challenges of possessing a superstar quarterback without a coach capable of maintaining their accountability. That was essentially the genesis of my commentary regarding Lamar Jackson. You must hire a coach who can hold Lamar accountable. People frequently equate accountability with blame, and that is not its essence. However, the most advantageous element the Chicago Bears currently possess is the fact that Caleb Williams encountered struggles during his inaugural season, and then Ben Johnson arrived and essentially declared, "This is my football team. This is not solely Caleb Williams' team. This is my team. This is my culture." And that is why I persistently stated that if Caleb Williams ultimately does not prove to be the quarterback and is simply not adequate, Ben Johnson remains. Caleb departs. They are not dismissing Ben Johnson to attempt to hire another coach in an effort to make Caleb successful. That is not how this dynamic was intended to function. And it is infinitely superior that way. Because the head coach governs accountability. He controls the culture. He is the entity that demands excellence during critical moments. Not the quarterback, not the wide receiver, not the tight end, not the cornerback, not the defensive back. When it is unified and emanates from the head coach, that constitutes the foundation of greatness. Therefore, if you hire a coach incapable of managing that, and you possess a quarterback as exceptionally talented as Caleb Williams, Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen, when they commit errors but continue to evade consequences, I am telling you, some coaches find it remarkably easy to simply acquiesce and go along for the ride. They genuinely do. They merely comply. There are coaches who demand that accountability and push relentlessly, and there are others who do not. I presented a clip where Kyle Shanahan discusses this. He mentions instructing Brock Purdy, "I do not want you to execute action X. Refrain from doing that." Then Brock proceeds to execute action X, but it yields a positive result. Shanahan states they will subsequently have a conversation. "Did you perceive something?" And if Purdy provides an intelligent rationale, Shanahan responds, "Why did you not convey that beforehand?" But if Purdy lacks a sound explanation, Shanahan conveys, "You were fortunate. I acknowledge that it succeeded, and I am pleased it succeeded, but I am informing you it will not consistently transpire that way. That is not the intended methodology." A substantial portion of coaching involves recognizing when a player executes an incorrect action, yet still achieves success, and subsequently determining how to navigate that situation, attempting to discern whether the player was erroneous in that instant, or whether the coach's instruction was erroneous. It is an intricate equilibrium, and it represents a delicate balance when addressing these superstar, elite caliber athletes like Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson, because they will execute actions that lead you to think, all right, that approach is ineffective for 99.9% of individuals. And that is why I offer such substantial resistance, and I encounter opposition, although I should not, when I assert that Caleb requires improvement. They respond, "No, it is acceptable. You are exaggerating regarding the completion percentage. They were merely dropped passes." And it's like, no, it is not. No, it is not. That is not demonstrating accountability. That is not embracing accountability. I focused on stating that Caleb must improve, and they countered that Ben Johnson discussed the receivers requiring enhancement. And it's like, he is also discussing the quarterback requiring enhancement. And I have news for you. I am more concentrated on the quarterback because that holds greater importance to me, due to the direct correlation that the superior Caleb Williams performs, the superior the Bears perform. It is genuinely that straightforward. Consequently, I simply believe the future possesses the maximum conceivable potential with the combination of Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. I strongly encourage all of you to commence evaluating these teams through the prism of a coach-quarterback partnership. It is the combination, not merely the individual coach or the individual quarterback, that arguably matters more than any other factor: the coach-quarterback duo. And I genuinely believe that hiring Ben Johnson this past year underscored that principle significantly. And when we discuss how Caleb improved, Caleb appeared markedly superior this season compared to the previous year. That is not coincidental. That is coaching. That is literally attributable to coaching. I experienced an epiphany months ago during the preseason, I believe, when I realized that many individuals perceive quarterback development and improvement as analogous to puberty. It merely requires time, as with anything, correct? From 10th grade to 12th grade, from ages 15 to 18, 19, 20, you need not undertake specific actions. You merely mature. One moment shaving is unnecessary, the next it is required. It transpires naturally. And there exist individuals who seemingly believe that within the NFL, you simply improve through experience. And it's like, no, you improve through coaching. You improve through coaching. My father, who was a coach, perpetually stated he always disliked the adage, practice makes perfect. He would remark, that is nonsensical. If you practice incorrectly, you will remain incorrect. And he would consistently assert, perfect practice makes perfect. And listen, it seemed like the most absurd statement when I was younger. It appeared utterly foolish. I recall thinking, what? It elicited laughter from everyone. What are you discussing? And I subsequently realized, no, he is unequivocally correct. That is accountability. All teams across the NFL engage in practice, but do they all execute it correctly? Are all players held accountable following a victory? How does a coach manage that victory even when copious elements require refinement? Accountability. And when you institute accountability, do you not only demand it, but also furnish solutions? Because I have collaborated with other coaches in the past who demanded accountability but failed to provide answers. It's akin to, you are demanding accountability. You must position me for success. You must assist me here. Do not merely instruct me that I must catch the football or that I am inaccurate or that I am running an incorrect route. Rectify it. Inform me what I must execute. Do not merely have me run a lap or sprints because I erred. Do not have me perform push-ups solely because you wish to discipline me. What is the solution? How do I ensure I execute correctly on the subsequent occasion? Furthermore, do not persistently inform me. You must dedicate the effort. You must dedicate the effort. You must maintain focus. You must maintain focus. Excellent. Then what? Coaching is substantially more complex than people genuinely comprehend or acknowledge. And when you can have a coach serve as the foundation of your culture and your team, what you can accomplish is so profoundly greater than if you merely possess a superstar quarterback, but lack any of that structural accountability. You lack any of that. Dak Prescott will remain the identical quarterback he has been for years. You hire the appropriate coach, and the Dallas Cowboys ascend to unprecedented levels. Perhaps not solely Dak Prescott individually, but he will improve by extension. However, the culture, the franchise, the organization, every individual on both sides of the football attains a new echelon. Thus, it is not perpetually exclusively about elevating the quarterback to a superior level. Hiring Andy Reid facilitated elevating Patrick Mahomes and contributed to shaping Mahomes into his current stature. Mahomes is obviously brilliant independently, but there exists a rationale why Andy Reid can integrate unfamiliar receivers, random players, and render them effective, a capability he has demonstrated throughout his entire career. There is a rationale why they avoid penalties. There is a rationale why the defense maintains lockdown performances attributable to what Andy Reid demands and the presence of Steve Spagnuolo. You are addressing all facets comprehensively, and thus, there are instances where you even have a quarterback whisperer who can maximize and extract the utmost from a quarterback. Yet the question remains, do they execute all other components correctly? I suspect Mike McCarthy is actually an exceptional coach from a quarterback development perspective. If you listen to Dak Prescott, he could not cease praising Mike McCarthy when McCarthy assumed a more hands-on offensive role. He essentially expressed, "I cannot believe I have not performed this way throughout my entire career." And I believe it was genuine. It was authentic. He was not merely stating it for rhetorical effect. I wish I could locate the interview, but he was essentially conveying astonishment. He was capable of simplifying concepts for Dak Prescott and rendering processes more manageable and fluid. Elements Prescott continues to employ presently, even without McCarthy's presence. However, the accountability was absent. The accountability was absent. The culture was absent. Therefore, you can furnish someone with solutions and accomplish all that. But it does not signify you possess all the additional elements. So when you have an individual capable of executing both, once again, that is dynasty construction. That is legendary. That is authentic greatness. But those are merely my viewpoints. I would absolutely relish hearing yours. What do you all contemplate regarding the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, and Ben Johnson? How luminous do you perceive the future to be for the Bears? As radiant as the sun. But please inform me of your thoughts. I peruse every single comment. Therefore, whether you concur with me or dissent from me, either way, let us engage in some dialogues. Let us engage in some debates. But ultimately, let us simply derive enjoyment. And please do contemplate subscribing. We are cultivating an incredible community here and would absolutely adore seeing you as part of it. I aspire to construct something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we are genuinely enthusiastic about being part of. I believe we are well on our path to accomplishing it. Please do not neglect to give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely assists with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so very much. See you next time.